Good morning, students. Welcome back to the lab safety course. And in today's lectures, we will discuss about different types of spillage, chemical and biological spillage. And in this lecture, we will cover different types of spillage. Like the spillage is a very common phenomena. It happen like while you are working in the lab. So this is a routine work while you are working. So there are chances intentionally or unintentionally there are chances that some chemicals can cause like spillage. So in today's lecture we will talk about the spillage, the types of spillage and what happen if there is a spillage happen, and if there is a minor or major spillage, and what will be the reaction or the response of being a student while you are working in the lab. So all the things we will discuss in this lecture, today's lecture. So let's talk about the spillage. So what is the spillage? Unintentional and uncontrolled release of any chemical that has hazardous material or that has a toxic effect to the body or to the environment, that is dangerous for the human being or for the environment. So it is called the chemical spillage. It has two categories. We can divide the chemical spillage into two categories, like minor spillage as well as major spillage. So according to their categories, like the minor, definitely it mean like the spillage happen like at a small scale, while in case of major spills, so it means the spillage of the chemical happen at a large scale in the big volume. So once any chemical spillage happen, so in that situation, so what will be the response of the person who are working in the lab? For example, if being a student you are working in the lab, so what will be your responsibility or your reaction? Because as I mentioned in the early slide, this chemical spillage is a routine matter, because of course if you are working, so there are chances, of course, there are, but the point is like the whether this is a minor spillage or the major spillage. So your response should be do not panic. Of course, if you are like in the senses, so then you can handle the situation very well. Determine the identity of the spill substance. Of course, since you are working in the lab and you know about the lab, so you should determine the identity, like whether this chemical is how much is toxic, or what are the adverse effect of this chemical. And you can also understand, or you should determine the severity of the spillage or the chemical. And if you think you don't have enough information, so you quickly you go to the MSDS document, material safety data sheet. So definitely each lab also has this document, so you just go through that particular document, and then check the information about that particular chemical, and then according to that the nature of the chemical, you can deal with that chemical. So cordon that particular area. So cordon mean like just the cover that area. So with this some the stripes or something you can use, and nobody can enter into that particular area. So the access of the people or the students, you can limit it, okay, in that particular area. Thank you. Excuse me. So while the dealing with the spillage, so whether it's a chemical or biological spillage, so you have to follow this the universal rule, like a SWIM. So what does mean SWIM is actually is a abbreviation of stop the smell if there is a chemical spillage happen. Of course, try to avoid, of course, the vapors and different the aerosols or different the contents maybe evaporate into the lab environment, of course. Okay, so stop the smell, it means carefully you should don't like take open breath into that particular area. Then warn others. For example, sometime maybe like your other friends are working in other corner, other side of the lab, so just also inform them. And if according to the spillage, if you think this is more dangerous, so then of course dial 4999, the fire or like the emergency numbers. Isolate the area, of course, as I mentioned. So this is very important. Restricted that area. Minimize the exposure to radiation and contamination. So if the spillage is like this more contamination or radiation, so of course, So as much as you can minimize the exposure. And then of course, what is the step? For example, as I mentioned, it depends on the spillage quantity, like whether this is mini or the major spillage. But of course, the person who is dealing with then have to protect himself, so need to wear like personal protective equipment. So in the next slide, so we will see how like different protective equipments have to be the way. So in this slide, you can see if you have to deal with this particular spillage and you have to put on personal protective equipment. So there are like different terminologies used for putting on or like putting off the personal protective equipments. For example, while you are putting on personal protective equipment, so it's called donning. So during the donning steps, so you should follow the universal rules. For example, first you wash your hands and hygiene your hands. So if you feel your hands are dirty, so then you just wash your hands with water and soap, and you can use any alcohol based the liquids, mostly like in all labs are available. Okay, so sometimes 70% ethanol or etc different chemicals are available. And then a second step is you wear the gown. So of course, each lab also have the gowns, and you there is a special procedures to the steps to wear the gowns. For example, make sure the gown covers your from neck to knees, and of course to the wrist, and tie the gown in the back of your neck as well as your the waist. And in number third, so if surgery you need to wear the mask, surgical mask, then wear the surgical mask. And if according to the spillage you have to wear respirators, so there are different types of respirators, N95, so which one is available in your lab or in your working place, so you should select that particular N95 respirator and just follow the procedures to wear the N95 respirators. So for example, first the stretch with both the top and the pre-stretch both top and bottom, the straps before placing the respirator onto the on your face. And of course use your hand to make a cup, like so put the respirator into your in your one hand, and then with the other hand you just place on your head, and then the respirator will come into your nose and mouth, very 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 accurately, and then just a tie up. So here are the procedures you can go through from these steps, and you just follow these steps and wear the respirators. And of course, in number four, you have to wear also, the face shield that also protect your eyes. So this is also very important, and you should place over the eyes or like a face, and according to your like a face size, you can adjust because this is adjustable. And then of course the lastly you have to wear the gloves, because now your hands are free, right? So there's everything you already wear, like the gown and the mask or respirator and shield, right? So now lastly, so wear the gloves. Okay, so there is of course gloves will be the last step, and put the gloves okay over the and also while you are dealing with the different dangerous chemicals, so just to stretch the gloves to the so that it can reach to the cuff of your gown, so it will be there is no like area that can expose to the chemicals. Okay, so just cover like a whole skin. So this is the all donning steps, and of course once you take care of for example the spillage, and even if you are not working, like somebody else is working and you are supporting, so all these steps should be followed. And once the cleaning happen, and spillage is removed on, and then how the taking off or the doffing personal protective equipment has been done. So these are the again like the sequence of the procedures or the steps that should be followed. So first while you are taking off the personal protective equipments, so you should remove the gloves. So you saw, like when you are putting on and donning, so you know the gloves were in the last because you want to free your hands. If your hands will be free, then of course you should use your hands while removing other gun or like a shield or etc. Anything that's you are wearing, so remove the gloves and of course follow the procedures or the steps to remove the gloves, because definitely your gloves are contaminated, right? And there are, I think, in the personal protective the equipment lecture, we already covered about how to remove the gloves, right? So here you can see like how the the pinch from the lower side and remove the gloves upper side, okay, and then make like cover if there is a contaminated the gloves on the top side, so it will just make inner side on the outer side, okay, and then dispose of these gloves. And once you remove the gloves, then in the second step you have to hygiene your hands. So of course thoroughly wash your hands using some soaps, or and then after that you can also use some alcohol based the liquids that can also disinfect your hands as well if there is any contamination or something happen. And number three, so you should remove the gone, okay. So this arrangement, the steps removing the doffing steps are very important, okay. So you cannot the change or the one step with the other one. So remove the gowns and of course untie from your neck and back side from the waist and just remove your gown. And of course again you have to wash your hands, okay. So hand hygiene is very important because each step, because once you remove the gloves, so that's why you need to hygiene your hands, and now you are removing the gown, so definitely at this step you also need to hygiene your hands, so to avoid any chances like your hands are contaminated, right? And then just remove your eye protection shield, and of course untie from the back side and remove your sheet, and then at last remove your N95 respirator, or if you are wearing mask, okay, and particularly just little bend forward and then remove from the back side of the strip, and then just hold the N95 respirator or the mask and remove. And finally again you should wash your hand and apply like alcohol based hygiene, the chemicals. So anything 70% ethanol or any alcohol based the hygiene solution is available in the labs, and also the follow the rules to wash your hands. Let's talk about minor spills. So because this is very common, like the routine matter. So in the lab, so the so if there is a minor spillage happen, so look after contaminated people, restrict the area. Of course, if the spillage is here, so restrict that area with particular with some the strips you can use or something that you can restrict the area, so but so that nobody can step into that area. And of course it will also control the spread of the spill. And of course go to the MSD document how to clean that particular area. Even if you are calling for the sweeper, so at least you can guide that particular the sweeper, because they are not trained to clean actually the chemical spillage or like biological spillage, okay. So since you are the expert, so you can just instruct that particular person if you have the information, right? And how you can handle these minor spills. So each lab has in the coming slides I will show you some the kits those are available in each lab. So those kits cleaning the spillage kits, so they contain some the basic equipments, those can be used for at least for minor spillage. So they contain like paper towels, and you can use those paper towels. They can absorb the chemicals. Just put the paper towels, the normal that we have in the lab, and disposable, of course. So once these are contaminated, just remove and throw into the garbage, right? And again, you can use more like paper towels. And once like a whole chemical is removed, then apply disinfectant, right? So of course we need to apply disinfectant onto that particular area. or sometime like a wipe spill with distant soap, paper towel and clean the surface. Oh, and at the end, all the gloves or the paper towels or any absorbent paper that you used to remove this spillage, so all should be go into the garbage. So minor spillage is very easy to handle, and of course every student and every worker so can do this minor spillage every time whenever they face this problem. So regarding a major spillage, so this is a little, of course, more dangerous because it can pose a serious threat to the life of the worker. So for a major spillage, of course, this is really important uh, uh, to to inform the technicians or the lab supervisors, and of course, it needs like there is emergency response. So definitely you have to contact with the concerned people. So how to handle the major spills? At least the response definitely being a student or the workers, you should know the response of if there's a major spill is happen. So evacuate the area, ventilate the place, since this is a major spill, is a lot of chemical is a spillage of. Okay, so and open the door, because the more of like the air is contaminated in the lab inside. Okay, so it will be dangerous for the breathing if someone is breathing, or the working in the lab, or even enter into the lab. To evaporate any supply liquid, allow resultant gas can also disappear if you open the door, okay, or the windows. If it's safe, for example, if you see like although this is a major spillage, but even then you can a little bit you can work. So for example, if you are already working on some experiments, so then you think it's safe, then go ahead and just shut down, or like possible ignition sources, especially for example if you are working in the laminar flow and you're using flame, or if you're working in biosafety cabinet and there is also like a gas flame is working on. Okay, so you can switch off all these things where you're working, and of course immediately talk to your technician or supervisor. And of course this is a very important step, like don't allow the spill to enter drains or confined spaces. Okay, so this is really very important. If like spillage happen close to the drains, so immediately do something, and of course to stop this and then to whom to contact. So of course if your technician supervisors are available, then of course they will contact the different offices, that the number that we have at the university, right? And otherwise, if nobody is available, so directly you can use the lab telephone, and you can contact the fire incidents office, or emergency number, or SQUH emergency, or health and safety officer, so you can contact by yourself using a lab telephone. So each lab not even if, for example, if not all together, but at least one kit, a spillage kit is available. So at least the basic kit is available, and it contains some agents like neutralizing agents, sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium bisulfate. Okay, and they have also some absorbent papers. Excuse me. For example, super absorbent pillows, paper towels, rags, sponges. So those can be used, and caution should be exercised, because some chemicals may ignite upon contact with the spillage or with the chemicals. Okay, so at least for the minor spillage, so these kits can easily be used if needed. Okay, and also the basic PPE is also available with these kits. So they have the gown, and they have the mask, and they have the shield, etc. Okay, so the basics, uh, uh, the PPE kit is available also with this spillage kit. So what happened, because since we are talking about the spillage of different chemicals or biological materials into the lab, and of course while working there are chances that it can be a spillage, a spill can happen on your body parts. So for example, if you are holding some tubes, or like a falcon tubes or the other tubes, right? So there are chances, due to human error, so there are chances. So what you have to do, so remove contaminated cloths quickly, and vigorously wash areas with soap and water, at least with the 1 minute running water continuously. Okay, not like the one side and the second side. and immediately obtain medical attention and report the incident to the laboratory technicians, and of course use safety showers immediately if needed. And especially if the the spillage happen with your the sensitive parts, for example your eyes, and then those are like more dangerous. So I think we will talk about like more about the eyes if it's in coming slides. So sometime this is very common, like a dry spillage or like some wet spillage happen onto the equipments we are working, especially for example centrifuges or like other small instruments. So this is really important. You just stop the equipment and just clean and disinfect, because this is very minor. Okay, the spillage, for example, I have some tubes and I'm just doing a centrifuge experiments, and due to overflow, some imbalances or something happen, and it can contaminate the centrifuge. Okay, so since like you are working, okay, so quickly just remove stop the machine and then just clean with the paper towel, even simple, and then disinfect that provide the disinfectant chemical onto the equipment. Okay, and you can use some absorbent or pad towel or any like other the different the absorbent papers are available in the lab, so you just remove that the spillage that contaminate the equipment. So this is very 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 common and very simple. Uh, this Devar, so these are the Devars. Devar like a special liquid nitrogen, the containers, very special one. We call them Devar. Since the liquid nitrogen temperature is very 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 high, in terms of like negative, very low, so minus 196 Celsius. So this is very very low. Okay, so the normal containers we cannot use to store this liquid nitrogen. Okay, so while we are transferring like the vars, each lab contains this divar. Okay, and then for example this is our the stock, and then we have, or for example individual students, if they need some liquid nitrogen, so they have to transfer from this big divar to the small basket, right? So we have some buckets or the basket like special also, like those are resistance, have resistance at this temperature. So while transferring liquid nitrogen, so you have to wear like very carefully about the your the PPE. So your lab coats and should have like a sleeves that have with the long cuffs, and cryogenic gloves should be, you should wear, not like a normal gloves. Okay, so since temperature of this liquid nitrogen is very low, right? So cryogenic gloves. Okay, and the lab coat you are wearing, it should be like a long cuffs, right? So it will also cover with the gloves. And if the chemical splashes goggles or full face shield is available, definitely you have to use these the goggles as well as a face shield. And your shoes, so you cannot compromise, right? Because there are very very 100% chances, even one or two drops always goes outside. Even then you are very careful. Okay, so it can split onto your shoes. So your shoes should be like the closed toe shoes, otherwise it can burn your skin. And here you can see like how this student is going to transfer liquid nitrogen from the raw to the normal the small bucket. And of course mostly like care should be taken not like overfill this container. So for sometime it overflow happen. Okay, so once it's overfill happen, so then of course liquid nitrogen can also spread into that particular area. Okay, and of course if the liquid nitrogen spillage happen onto that areas, it can damage the surface because the temperature is very very low, and also it can cause like the floor to crack down. Okay, so this is really very important. Even your body is safe, but even then this is surface or the ground where you are working is not safe if it's overflow. In case of liquid nitrogen, if for example it is splashed into the eyes, although there are less chances, but while you are working, so even you touch with the mortar and pestle, for example, if you are grinding and the tissues, for example, the plant tissues or like your other working on other tissues, and once you are trying to grind, so sometime maybe like the liquid nitrogen can splash into your eyes. So for example, there are chances, always there are chances. So what happens? So you don't need to be more worried. So go ahead and wash your eyes 15 to 20 minutes continuously, okay? And then of course visit the medical hospital or the seek immediate medical attention, okay? And of course, even if your some liquids or the drops of liquid nitrogen drop out on your hands, just the put your hands or the affected area under the continuous waters, okay? And of course, this low temperature can cause your skin, the skin freeze very rapidly. So be careful about if you are using liquid nitrogen. Although this is very common chemical, most of the students have to work this chemical, but it is also very sensitive to work on this chemical. So in some of the labs, not all labs, for example, in medicine or the hospital, of course, those people are working with the human side. So they need to play with these needles. So the needle stick injury is also very common, okay? And of course, when if there is an injury happen, of course, wash this particular area and don't squeeze the wound, okay? And don't miss any clinic appointment or immunization. So usually, like the people who are working in the hospital, they already got the immunization, but even then, for example, you have to be very careful and report the incidents to the lab supervisors, okay? And for example, in other labs, the injury, there are chances, for example, you are using nano drop, so it's a very small needle, okay? Sometime if you are doing sampling like DNA quantification, so might be, the some your the hand can hurt by this very very sharp needle. Okay, so this is also very common, the needle injuries in all, the biolabs. So what happen if there is a leakage of a gas, of course, while you're working in these cabinets, so they are actually equipped with the gas, natural gas. So of course, there are two stoppers, like one here and on the back side, of course, switch off the main gas, and then of course just a switch off the Bunsen burner. Here is a flame, and then slightly, the open the window. There is a the glass shield, okay, so that it can the gas can just go outside. And of course, once you open this glass shield, the gas will become outside into the lab, and then you should open the lab doors or windows so that the gas also can go outside into the open air. And of course, inform your other colleagues or friends, those are working in the lab, so that nobody can switch on anything that can produce a flame, and it can dangerous or can catch the fires. So this is also very sensitive, the leakage of gas, and this is very common. So since if there is no the flame is running, so there are chances like the gas leakage. And also, while in the hospital, so sometime people are doing like taking samples of blood. Splashes can also happen. This is because it contains biological hazards, because each blood has depending on the patients, might be it has some infection, viral or fungal or bacterial, whatever, right? So we always deal, like, of course, the blood as a contaminated source. Okay, so of course, clean if there is a minor the blood splashes or onto your working area or into the equipment or into the desk, disinfect the surface area. If it's the blood splashes happen onto your lab coats or other PPE, so you should remove them, of course, this excuse me. And of course, if it's if any blood drops happen, just contact your body parts, so just wash quickly, okay? And especially some people are working on a silica gel, right? So silica gel is the contain some the chemical that is cause a very dangerous disease like silicosis. So be careful, because this is a very common chemical. Silica gel is used in most of the labs. So inhalation of this chemical can cause silicosis. That is a very horrible disease, and it can cause like irreversible response. So be careful. So I think this is all about today's lecture. So this is very simple lecture about the chemical and biological spillage. And if you have any questions, so we can once, so we will be online, so we can discuss. Okay. So from now today, this is a very short lecture. So see you then, inshallah. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.